Welcome to The Explainer. So if you've ever asked an AI to build you a user interface, you already know it can spit out the code. But can it actually create delight? Today, we're diving into OpenAI's brand new playbook on how to use GPT-5.4 to go from just functional code to designs that are actually polished and ready for production. And let's just start with a problem that I think we've all felt. You get the code, it runs, but the UI itself just feels, well, kind of uninspired, right? You've got elements overlapping, a color palette that feels totally random, and a layout that just screams generic wireframe.
All right, so to fix this, OpenAI's whole guide is built around their new flagship model, GPT-5.4. And it's not just a minor upgrade. It comes with some really specific upgrades that make it way better for this kind of detailed design work.
Now, what's really cool here are the visual and practical improvements. So, stronger image understanding means it can actually look at your mood board and get what you're going for. But the real game changer? It's that native computer use with tools like Playwright. This means the AI can literally open a browser, look at the UI it just built, see that the layout is busted, and then go back and fix its own code, all by itself. Wild, right? And this advice applies across the whole GPT-5.4 family. You know, it's good to know which tool to grab for the job, from the Big Gun Pro version for really tough problems, all the way down to the zippy Nano for simple stuff. For most of this design work, though, the standard GPT-5.4 is going to be your go-to.
Okay, so how do you actually get those amazing results? Well, OpenAI laid out a super clear 4-step playbook. And let's walk through it, because this is where we stop just kind of hoping for the best and start actually directing the AI.
And this, right here, is the heart of the whole guide. See, it's not about writing one single perfect prompt. It's about a sequence of steps designed to put guardrails on the model. You're guiding it toward a specific look and feel, instead of just letting it guess and fall back on generic stuff.
So the very first step is a little weird, a bit counterintuitive. You actually want to turn the reasoning level down. Yeah, OpenAI says that for UI work, low and medium reasoning levels actually give you better results. And why is that? Well, it makes the model faster, more focused on the visual task at hand, and way less likely to overthink the whole thing.
Next up, you've got to lock in your fundamentals. Don't let the model invent its own style. You need to give it a strict visual rulebook. And you do this by defining what are called design tokens, which are basically just variables for your design. You tell it, hey, color primary is this specific hex code, and the font headline is this specific font. No more random blues.
Okay, this one is absolutely critical. A prompt without a visual anchor, like a screenshot of a site you love, or a cool mood board, is pretty much just a shot in the dark. Giving it visual references provides concrete guardrails for the layout, the spacing, the whole vibe, really. It's probably the fastest way to get the look that's in your head out onto the screen.
And finally, you have to ground the design in reality by using your real content. Handing the model your actual copy and your project goals right from the start is the last piece of the puzzle. It forces the AI to build a layout that actually serves the content instead of just filling a blank page. It's really the difference between a generic template and a purpose-built design. Now, beyond those 4 main steps, the guide gives us a few more pro tips for taking a pretty good first draft and getting it all the way to something you can actually ship.
So if you're building for the web, OpenAI has a very specific recommendation for you. Use React and Tailwind CSS. They say flat out that GPT 5.4 performs particularly strongly with this stack, making it way easier to get to that polished result you're after. And this is a great one. It shows you how to solve a classic AI bug, overlapping stuff. You know, when a floating header or a pop-up modal just covers up the content you need to see. The fix is to be super explicit with a layout safety prompt. You basically tell the model, hey, never let this thing cover up that thing. You have to give it those clear rules to keep the layout from breaking. And to make all this even easier, OpenAI has also rolled out something they call a front-end skill. You can think of it like a pre-packaged bundle of all these best practices built right into their coding tools. It's designed to apply this guidance for you automatically, so you get more polished designs right out of the box.
But look, we need to have a balanced view here. This guide is super helpful, but it's not a silver bullet. There are definitely some things it leaves out, and the model itself has some known limitations. Yeah, the documentation is a little thin in some pretty important spots. It talks about a getting started prompt, but then doesn't show it to you. It doesn't tell you how to set that super important reasoning level if you're using the API. And maybe most importantly, there are no before and after examples. Without seeing the results, it's kind of hard to know how well these techniques actually work.
So it's also important to put performance in context. Now, this isn't a direct front-end test, but one benchmark on a really complex task, reproducing scientific papers, showed GPT-5 was actually quite a bit less accurate than a main competitor. It's just one data point for sure, but it's a good reminder that performance isn't always the same across the board.
Another known issue is that GPT-5.4 can be, well, a little too chatty. It can be verbose. If you set the reasoning too high, it'll sometimes generate way more code than you actually need. Which, hey, just reinforces why OpenAI's very first tip is to dial that reasoning back and keep the output clean and simple.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, the path to a great AI-generated UI isn't about finding some kind of magic prompt. It's about you becoming a great director. It's about providing clear constraints, a strong visual direction, and a solid content strategy to guide the model exactly where you want it to go.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? Are these techniques the actual blueprint for a new era of AI-driven development, or are they just a much better way to get a good first draft, leaving the human developers still firmly in the driver's seat for that final, crucial polish?